I always give this example to my students, right? If you're looking to, I don't know, find a new wife, let's say, so the first thing you're gonna do is like start with the awareness, right? So you go out and you say, "Hi, my name is Giovanni. What's your name?" Right? If you simply ask, "Hi, my name is Giovanni. You wanna go for dinner?" They might just call police, right? Because they're like, what are you doing here, right? So the first thing is like, "Hi," I introduce myself and I build some, connection. So this is awareness, right? Then engagements like, "Hey, do you want to go for a walk? You want to maybe have a coffee? You're ready to listen, you share some common interest, right?" And then after the engagement, you might go to the conversion, right? I'm not saying people are like products, right? Like I'm just trying to build like a framework here, right?
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 8th Regional Marketing Meetup hosted online by the Bilstein Group. Today, we have a special podcast. Every year, we try to go a step further, but this time we are live here. We will have a 2-hour-long podcast discussion on a topic, Tech and Thought, Conversation of the Future. This conversation is set to explore cutting-edge trends in technology, innovation, and psychology. After this 2-hour-long discussion, we will have a 15-minute break, and then we continue with a workshop with Elena Telibi on topic manager emotions. So stay with us, please, and if you have any questions, you can send them in the chat box. By the way, I am your host today. My name is Mina Smiljanic, and I have the opportunity to introduce these two wonderful professionals and incredible experts. Today, we have with us Chiara Bacilieri. She is an expert in marketing and work psychology. She is the head of research and innovation in a tech company called LifeFeed, where she leads initiatives and promotes gender equality, inclusion in the workplace, and well-being of the employees. Also, she is an adjunct professor at consumer behavior in Milan and was named one of the Forbes 100 under 30 in 2021. So it's all really impressive, and we're really glad to have you here. Welcome to the show, Chiara.
Thank you so much, Mina.
How are you?
I'm good. It's my first time here today, so I'm very honored to be here with you and very curious to talk with you and with Giovanni also.
Great. I'm really excited about this. So we'll talk about psychology, we'll talk about human emotions, we will get to neuroscience a bit, but we will also talk about trends in digital marketing. So we have our second guest called Giovanni Pupo, the head of e-commerce media Europe at Lipton in London, with extensive experience both on agency and client side. He brings in a unique blend of creativity and analytical insights to his role. Giovanni is also an adjunct professor at Polimi University Business School, and he is the host of a podcast called A Glass of Marketing. So this environment is really natural to you, yes?
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Excited for today.
This is the first podcast that you're a guest.
No, I did other podcasts, but yeah, usually I'm on the other side. So good luck today.
I told you already, this is the first podcast that I'm hosting in English. So
that was a great start.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really hope we will have a great discussion and that you will learn something new, that we will explain maybe some new marketing perspectives, but it's a 2-hour discussion. We have a lot of topics to cover, but for the beginning, I would like to hear more about your work. Chiara, you connected marketing and psychology, and it's a really interesting blend, a really unique intersection of two areas. So please explain to all of our listeners a bit more about your work.
Thank you so much, Mina, and thank you for introducing this focus on psychology. When people ask me about what is to you the relationship between psychology and marketing, my first answer is, I mean, psychology is like the science behind marketing because psychology studies human behaviors and what are the motivational levers behind human behaviors. Marketing wants to influence in some ways human behavior, so they are very strictly connected, naturally connected to each other. And I was trained as a marketing psychology. What does this mean? It means that at the university I studied what are the psychological factors that drive consumer behavior, that motivate people to buy something, but also to perform other kind of actions such as word of mouth, giving positive reviews, and so on, loyalty. So these are the consumer behaviors. And the interesting thing is that when you study consumer psychology, marketing psychology at the university, they teach you about what is consumer behavior, what are the psychological factors that every person that are in common in every person. But then I started working in a digital company, in a company that works with other companies to personalize the digital customer experience. So something which was new to me at that time. And the first question that I asked to the person who became then my boss, which is the CEO of that company, was, okay, when you personalize the digital customer experience, what are the data that you are basing on? Because to me, because of my background in psychology, the first information which is important to drive personalization, to create a marketing message, was psychology. And when he answered to me, it was like, oh, we personalize, for example, the homepage or the newsletters or the messages that we convey through the digital platforms, basing on social demographic information, behavioral information, so gender, age, behaviors, preferences, so everything, but psychology was missing. So my question was, okay, what could happen if we blend these two souls? So one-to-one marketing, digital marketing, focusing much more on personalization, and marketing psychology that considers the psychology of every one of us as it was the same, but it is not. And we will talk about this.
Mm.
And well, just to add, because you mentioned also that today I work at LifeFeed. LifeFeed is an ed tech company that teaches people and employees especially to develop at work the soft skills that they personally develop in their private life, in their personal life roles, such as being parents, being caregivers, being friends, passionate about a hobby, a sport. So today I work in a different sector, even if I still teach at university as a contract professor, consumer psychology. Because in a period of my life, it was during COVID, I felt this need to apply the same knowledge, the same skills that I've applied in marketing for 5 years, even in another context. So before, my job was about helping companies understand better the psychology of their customers in order to create personalized and more effective messages, addressing their personality traits, for example. Now I help companies to understand better who their employees are in order to make them feel better and to make them more able to bring the most of themselves and their skills at work. So it is the same skills, but applied in a different context.
It's really interesting perspective. And even if our buyers feel better, I think they will buy more. If we think about how other people are feeling and what their emotions are. So
I mean, one of the soft skills I work with is empathy, which is a fundamental soft skills if you are a marketing professional or a seller. So these areas are strictly connected. You cannot be a good marketing professional if you don't have empathy and the ability to listen to your customers.
Great, thank you so much. I will talk about more. I would like to introduce you. You can tell us more about the blend of your creativity and the data-driven insights that you have in the company. How do you apply that approach in Lipton? Can we hear more about your story? How you
Yeah,
ended up there?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I started my career, I mean, agency side. So I started my career in marketing agency, and my focus is mostly like people call it performance marketing, which means digital marketing today focus more like on numbers and performance. Which, I mean, if we want to be a little bit theoretical here, the literature define it the difference between branding and performance marketing, where branding is more about storytelling, building a brand, communication, where performance marketing is more focused on the short-term growth in theory. So more like driving traffic to your website, driving sales. So I started my career agency side, and my expertise is around planning, activating, and managing campaigns on every digital marketing platform, which is search. So like Google and Amazon are the most famous ones. Social, Meta, LinkedIn, TikTok probably are the most famous ones, and then video. So like YouTube is the most famous one, but then today you have CTV, which means connected TV. It's the new television essentially, which works similar to YouTube essentially, right? So yeah, ended up work. So I started agency side and then moved client side. Today working at Lipton managing e-commerce media, which means everything advertising on specifically Amazon and all the other retailers. So grocery shopping online. So we are seeing this behavior of people changing, which means that we're moving from people buying grocery shopping offline to actually doing it online. So I mean, some countries are moving faster than others. So I'm Italian. In Italy, we still want to do our grocery shopping offline as most of countries. But for example, UK and US, I live in London and I do most of my grocery shopping online. So the e-commerce landscape is evolving so fast. So I think if we look at the evolution of marketing and media, I think we moved from simply having entertainment online to actually using smartphones and social media. I think changed it a lot because you moved from actually entertaining to actually communicating. And today, the next step is actually e-commerce. So you don't just entertain, you don't just communicate with your friends, but you actually buy on those platforms, right? So yeah, I take care, I would say, of the e-commerce side as well. So actually people buying. And then on the other side, I teach at university, so the educational part is key because then how you create the new professional profiles of the future, right? So what are the new skills of, you know, the new professional? What do they need to learn in order to become the new marketing manager? Because of course we talk about digital marketing today. I don't really agree with the definition of digital marketing because it's just marketing, right? It's a marketing in a new world. So there is no big difference between walking in the street and looking on a billboard or scrolling on your smartphone and seeing like the new billboard, which is a banner on a website, right? Same people, different environment, but same needs, right? So yeah, and then my third role, of course, I host a podcast on YouTube. It's called A Glass of Marketing. So we usually have a glass of wine and we talk about marketing. But it's not just marketing. Then, of course, we talk about personal and professional growth as well. Because as Chiara mentioned, and then I'm sure we will deep dive on that, I think personal growth goes along with professional growth as well. Companies are made of people, so happy people make happy companies, and the return on investment is much higher, right? And I'm a big fan of empathy. I mean, of course, empathy is important on corporates, but I think everyone should have empathy in everyday life, right? Because if we all had empathy, we would probably live in a better world, right? So, big fan of empathy everywhere, not just in marketing.
Great. I understand both you really enjoy working all of the areas you're currently in, what's the most rewarding aspect of your work? Where do you find the most satisfaction? The teaching or the marketing part, the
I mean,
education?
for me, yeah, personally, it's definitely education. I mean, if I had to rank it, education is one of my favorite fields because you feel like you're actually helping the others. I give you this example. My parents are both two doctors, and I usually think the two most important role in the society. I mean, two of the main roles in the society, in my opinion, are doctors and teachers because they both can save your life or they can ruin your life as well, right? So I think as a educator and teacher, you are responsible of people growth. You can maybe in 10 minutes you might deliver a speech or like some information that change these people's life forever, or at least give them a direction. So I think educating and then also like running like a podcast, hosting people, you learn a lot. You can absorb, you can be a sponge, you can learn a lot from people. So I think educating and listening to people, and then of course helping other businesses, because of course big corporates like Lipton allow you to learn a lot and give back a lot, but then also helping like startups and small companies, or even like small businesses, people that start their own thing, they have a dream, right? So if you help them realize what they wanted to do, I think it's key, right?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty aligned with Giovanni, because what I like most of my work today, or my life in reality, because to me it's very difficult to separate life and work. I see them as blended, is the variety of activities, of contexts, of people I can talk with. So I'm a manager at LifeFeed, and I manage a team of data scientists and work psychologists. At the same time, I teach at university, and I like to I love to participate to events, conferences, or podcasts like this one. And I think that the most valuable thing that I have in my life today is the possibility to put together all of these things and make them talk to each other. So my job is more like connecting dots. I was talking about it with Giovanni before we started. It's more like connecting dots rather than collecting dots in the same direction in a vertical context or activity. So this is what I like most.
You both wear multiple hats. Like, how do you manage time and energy between all the responsibilities, academic work, other projects that you do? How can you leverage, personal life? I see a big connection. You're enjoying your workplace, so like it's part of your life. And is there a place where you can chill and forget about the work? How you manage personal activities with everything you do?
Well, of course, personal time, free time is essential, and I care a lot about my work-life balance. I also care a lot about the possibility to put in synergy, work and life. What do I want to say? Of course, we have 24 hours in a day. So if we think about the time that we dedicate to something, it's a time that we are not dedicating to something else. This is the principle behind, for example, the concept of work-life reconciliation, or conciliation, when we talk about our need to manage all of the stuff that we have in our life. But it's very partial, because if we, on the other hand, think about the skills that we have, well, we develop all of these skills in our multiple roles, and these skills can enrich each other. So the first perspective that I was thinking of and sharing to you is called, from a scientific point of view, role conflict. Is the one upon we are basing the most of our way of thinking and of even considering work. So, for example, the feeling that if we dedicate a lot to our family, we are in some ways losing something at work, or if we are dedicating so much at work, we are in some ways losing something in our family. I'm not saying this is not true. I'm saying that this is partial, because in our family roles as parents, as daughters and sons, as everything that we are in our personal life, we develop important skills, which are the so-called soft skills or human skills, such as empathy, such as listening, but even leadership, innovation, organization, which are essential even in our job, even in our marketing job, if we are marketing professionals. And it's also vice versa.
Great. Yeah, we'll talk about that life work balance. And it's really interesting that you said that companies need to understand those other sets of skills that we develop, and also to nurture that in the work area. So we will maybe get to that point again during the podcast. We have so many topics, as we already said. We're gonna explore the intersection of technology and humanity, because during this incredibly fast transition, as you already said, we need to educate new marketing professionals, but we also need to educate people that still wants to buy more stuff in the groceries, not online. After COVID period, we changed so many habits, but still it's an ongoing process. You told us that you work on many other platforms. You're using a lot of digital marketing formats like video. And what is in your opinion, the best trend right now when we are talking about
video,
technology? Yeah.
100% video. I mean, if you see the evolution of every platform, they're getting into video. Even LinkedIn, like, I don't know if you've seen, but like lately, LinkedIn has been focusing a lot on videos. It makes sense, because I mean the challenge here is, and I call it the TikTokification of media. And I think this is why TikTok is getting big, and it's huge, is for two reasons. First of all, is the algorithm, which is probably the best on the market right now, and is able to understand what people want and give it to you. But then also is the way of consuming content. Unfortunately, or I mean, this is what's happening right now, is that the attention span of people, like, it's getting lower year on year, right? And so we moved from the way of consumption. Let's think about, let's say, news, right? We moved from big newspapers to iPads, where you have the same newspaper but like on a different page, to then clickbait articles where you just have a title and a small body still on a website, to then just an image with, like, like a title, to then just videos of like 30 seconds, 1 minute, 30 seconds, 15 seconds. So now we are in the range of from 6 seconds to 15 seconds, right? And probably 6 seconds mostly. So of course, people attention span is lower. There is so much information around there. So people need to scan a lot of information. So this is one of the new skills, I think, and then we can talk about it later on. But I think one of the new skills is actually being able to go through a lot of information and understand what's important and what's not, right? But getting back to your question, video is actually the format that is working the most. Probably because it's easier to digest. If you think about it, you put more effort in reading, I don't know, a page of words than not just passively listening and watching to a 15 seconds video. And now the new technique, if we observe the new content creators, is actually building hooks. So when you look on TikTok and Instagram, it's like the video starts in the same way it ends, right? So yeah, if I had to give an advice to, like, businesses and corporates, is not just about what you communicate, but it's how you communicate it. Because then, if you want to go viral, and of course you can always, advertise. So even if you don't go viral, if you do advertising on those platforms, you still get visibility. But if you're gonna go viral and give the platform what they want, is actually building content as hooks and keeps people attention very high. And this is the challenge, right? This is why I think getting back to Chiara point is when you wear different hats, you also learn a different, um, point of views. Is that from a marketing manager point of view, of course, I need to find the right message to the right people on the right platform. But then when I wear the content creator hat, I realize that it's very hard and it takes a lot of effort creating content like this, which is a long form. But then you need to carry it out because if you want people to actually focus on this 2 hours content, then you need to carry it out in 15 seconds reel. So, for example, when I do on my YouTube channel, I have the 1 hour long form, but then we carry it out in each episode is like 15 reels, right? And then what you realize that actually people watch more the 15 reels, the 15 seconds, 15 reels, than all the 1 hour format. And if you want them to watch the 1 hour format, you need to grab their attention through LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok with the 15 seconds and then get it back to the YouTube channel. So definitely video is the future. Then it's not just about video, it's how you create an attention grabbing video. I think this is the next step. And the answer is start hiring junior people that understand those platforms and create user-friendly content. Because I think, I think in the past, the idea was to hire senior people because they have experience, and I think you still need those people. But I think today the new skill is also hiring young people. They understand those platforms because they spend a lot of time on those platforms, and ask them to experiment, to play with it. And I think juniors in the content creator environment, juniors are the new seniors, if you know what I mean, right?
But does it always, we have a short format, we have those hooks, we need to keep their attention on the video, but does it brings them to buy something more often? Does it convert to like that people watching that video at the end buy what we sell, or
Yeah.
do they just stay on the channel and just rewatch those videos?
I mean, the new gold is attention, right? And I don't think you have to do everything you do because you want to sell. It's the same thing like with the human interactions, right? You can tell when an interaction is genuine or if people are trying to sell you something, right? So you tend to trust people when you realize that they don't really want to sell you something. They just want to be friends. They just want to share some genuine information, and you tend to trust the people, and you tend to make friends when you realize that those people don't really want to get something from you, at least in the short term, right? And you can tell when people are genuine. And brands are like people at the end of the day. If I think personal branding is getting huge, is because brands spend, years in trying to get the same characteristic that people have, right? Like empathy, being nice with you, being transparent. And now it's easier to build to make people become brands just because, and this is why we have influencer marketing become huge, because for a brand it's easier to link to a person and get the same characteristic. So yeah, I feel like you just need to be genuine, authentic. I think authenticity today is key. So you as a brand, if you're just full transparent and you talk to people like you're talking to your friends, I think then once people trust you because you are authentic, then they will think of you when wanted to, do a purchase or simply like ask for help, right?
Yeah, that's great. So your advice to our audience is to keep the human touch in
Always.
everything they do, not only to sell something.
I think selling is the third step, right? First of all, I mean, if we look at the now getting back to the marketing professor at, right? If you look at the funnel, you have awareness, you have engagement, and you have a conversion, right? So I always give this example to my students, right? If you're looking to, I don't know, find a new wife, let's say, so the first thing you're gonna do is like start with the awareness, right? So you go out and you say, "Hi, my name is Giovanni. What's your name?" Right? If you simply ask, "Hi, my name is Giovanni. You wanna go for dinner?" They might just call police, right? Because they're like, what are you doing here, right? So the first thing is like, "Hi," I introduce myself and I build some, connection. So this is awareness, right? Then engagements like, "Hey, do you wanna go for a walk? You wanna maybe have a coffee?" you're ready to listen, you share some common interest, right? And then after the engagement, you might go to the conversion, right? I'm not saying people are like products, right? Like I'm just trying to build like a framework here, right? And yeah, I think the way the brands need to approach, if you want the sales funnel, is the same way. You build a relationship and then you nurture this relationship over time, and then people will think of you when they are, we say, in the category, when they are in the need of you, right? So yeah.
Yeah, great. It's a really good parallel because we're still talking about humanity, like empathy, human touch. And then when we talk about technology, we now have AI as like current situation that we're living in. Everything is generated. Most of the things are AI generated, and people are starting to realize it through social media, through other platforms, that most of the content is in a way AI generated. So maybe I would like to hear from your perspective, from psychological perspective. Do you think that AI is good, or is it making our situation even worse?
Well, this is a very complex and difficult question, and we can talk a lot about this. But what I think is that AI, as even marketing psychology or neuromarketing, they are tools. They can be used for the good or for the bad. So it depends on the intention of who uses this kind of tools. And I'd like to connect with what Giovanni was saying about attention is the new gold. I totally agree with this. I can also add to what you mentioned about the how is much more important in some cases than the what. I would also add the who. So who we are talking to as or with as marketing professionals. And this is again about psychology, because if the attention span is declining, and we all know this, this is why we need to be much more relevant than before. And to be relevant, we need to address, let's use an old word probably, but to target the person we are interacting with, also from a psychological point of view. So Giovanni is expert about e-commerce. In my opinion, digital, e-commerce, everything which is online. So the online way to interact with customers, with people, is like a big compromise. So we are prioritizing the efficiency over the effectiveness. What do I mean? I mean that if you enter a shop, a physical store, and you talk to a person who has a lot of empathy, so able to understand your personality, for example, and to personalize the relational approach, the communication style, not just the products that he or she is proposing to you, but also how to communicate those products. Well, here we have the much higher effectiveness. And of course, if we go online, we lose some part of this effectiveness to prioritize efficiency, high number of people reached at the same time. That's why we need psychology. I give you just an example. I don't know if you know who Robert Cialdini is. Robert Cialdini is one of the most famous social psychologists and expert about social influence in the world. He's pretty old. And in the 80s, he wrote a book called Influence, the Science of Persuasion. In this book, he listed the main ways by which people and marketers, companies as well, try to convince others to do something. So he listed these 6 persuasive principles. He did not invent the persuasive principles, because since ever people use techniques
Define them.
exactly in order to convince others to do something, which can be to buy something, to say okay to a social purpose also, so whatever. But he classified these techniques into 6 principles. We can talk about them even later on, but one of these techniques is called the social proof, that says that every person is much more persuaded by what other people think and what other people do. So, for example, if you go outside and are looking for a restaurant and you see that there is a very busy restaurant, you tend to think that this is pretty good. If you go into another place and you see that this restaurant is empty, you tend to think that this is pretty bad. Okay, this is a very, very basic and human way of thinking, which is widely used by brands and by companies. Let's think about Amazon, the usage of testimonials, of reviews, of call to actions such as customers like you have bought this item, this product, or these products are frequently bought together. So here, in this case, Amazon, but many other e-commerce websites use the social proof in order to tell you other people are doing this, so do the same. Okay. The problem is that companies apply this principle in a very, let's say, generalized way, without personalizing, without considering individual differences. The interesting thing is that, and no one knows in the marketing world, unfortunately, there is a lot of science behind, which is about how individual differences, for example, in personality, change our way to be also persuaded by companies. For example, there is a personality trait called the need for uniqueness, which is the personality trait that characterize people that, for example, look for something special, for something original. They want to distinguish themselves from all the other people. So they don't want to follow the majority. So how a persuasive technique, a marketing technique using social proof could work with people with high need for uniqueness? It don't, simply. So that's why it's so important to understand the psychology of your customer, high need for uniqueness or high need for conformity, in order to then decide which kind of marketing technique to use.
It's interesting also, like how social proof has been increasing with social media, right? Because if you think about it, now everyone is looking to have more like social proof. Like everyone on social media is posting, trying to have other people following them. So if you think about it, the follower is actually the biggest social proof, right? And brands, getting back to brands, I think they need to understand how to better use that. Because when you talk about reviews and like the restaurant, like, so I feel like before the internet, of course, you go on the street, you check out a restaurant, and you rate the restaurant based on, or like a shop, based on how many people are inside. Today, it's not just about how many people are physically inside, but also virtual inside. Like how many reviews you have on Google, how many followers you have on your Instagram page, how many likes, how many views, right? So it's interesting how this is actually becoming even more important, right? And if a brand or like a person or like it's able to use it properly, then this is one of the, the biggest competitive advantages, right?
Yeah, of course. And for example, using social proof, there's also booking. So when we look for an hotel or something, okay. And for example, you made me think there is a call to action, there is a phrase that says a lot of people are looking at the same product, at the same service, at the same hotel in the same moment as you are. So this also conveys a sense of competition, which is pretty aligned with the social proof. But in this case, they are also using another technique, which is not just social proof, but also scarcity. Because as human beings, we also tend to be more more prone to whatever is we perceive as scarce, as limited. It could be limited in time, limited in number. So they are using these two techniques at the same time. And when they say, okay, just 3 rooms left at this price, they are telling you two things. This is something which is pretty difficult to obtain, so scarcity, but at the same time, many people have seen and chosen this, so social
And
proof.
those two, they usually go together. Like if we think about the automotive, like you see, I don't know, Ferrari, right, or Lamborghini, then it's not just about having the budget to buy it, but then even if you have the money tomorrow to buy a Ferrari, they don't give it to you. You need to be on a waiting list,
Yeah.
and they make you feel even more special because they're like, okay, people that have this car, it's not just about the money, but then it's also about you have it because it's a limited edition, so you've been chosen. You know what I mean? So I think it's pretty powerful for a brand. And now every brand like watches, they're doing the same, cars, clothing.
Birkins.
Exactly.
Yeah,
When
yeah,
you want to buy a bag,
exactly. It's not just a bag, right?
it's a Birkin.
It's a lifestyle essentially, right? And I think gets back to today's society where because of social media and everything, we see more people and we tend to feel we are less unique. Because if you think about it, we were talking about this yesterday, is that the more you travel, the more you find similarities between countries, right? And then you feel like you are less unique. Or at least we are a mix of many things, right? So I think I think what a lot of brands trying to do is like make you feel more unique, right? And you can tell this with shoes as well, like limited edition, like shoes off white. They try to have those offering that is just if you have it, then if I see you in a street walking with that bag, with that sneaker, then you are unique because it's not just about the money, but it's also like you manage to find it. And the people recognize the inner circle as well. So you're part of a circle, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because these brands, luxury brands, use a lot the principle of scarcity. They focus a lot on exclusivity, products that are very rare, difficult to obtain, even if they cost a lot. It's not so easy. It's not just about money, okay? And this is a technique that also brands which are lower in cost and in positioning tend to use. For example, when they use the concept of a pre-sale and they give you the possibility to be the first to buy something, to see something. So they are focusing on your need to be an initiator more than an imitator. So a trendsetter more than a trend follower. And interestingly, they found out in psychology research about this stuff is that people with a high need for uniqueness are much more oriented toward this kind of technique. So scarcity, exclusivity, be the first to buy something is something which is very attractive to a person that has a high need for uniqueness. But if a person has a high need to belong, a high need to conformity, it's much better to, for example, show them what are the most popular products, outfits, and so on. So different techniques work better with different kind of people. And if you choose a message, a marketing message, in some ways you're like choosing a personality you are interacting with.
So if we want to influence consumer behavior, we need to think about more aspects. We need to think about human personality, emotions, our experience. And if we need to choose between those techniques, it's a really complex process, as
Yeah, I
I
think he gets
heard you
back to the
understand.
point Chiara made at the beginning, which is we focus, and my job is sometimes it's too focused on performance. So it's too focused on driving clicks to the website, it's driving sales, but it's less focused on listening and understanding the person in front of you. And I think this is one of the oldest rule of sales. Like you can tell, like, and I think the biggest example is when you have a salesman, right? Someone that is trying to sell you to sell you something in person, right? And then the one of the oldest example, like coming from the Wolf of Wall Street movie, is like, sell me this pen, right? So usually in sales they use this example because the basic is okay, they try to sell you this pen, so they try to say, oh, this pen is the best on the market, or is the cheapest, or is the, I don't know, is the best one in quality or whatever, right? Where the good ones are not trying to sell you the pen, they're asking you, why do you need a pen? Maybe you don't need the pen, right? So they try to listen to you and understand if you're already using a pen, what type of pen you're using. So they try to understand what angle they could use to then, sell you this pen. In marketing, this is called pull or push, right? So usually the old style is push, right? So you have something, you try to give it to people. Where in theory, the idea is to do pull. So you understand what they need and you try to give a personalized approach, or at least you make it think it's personalized, or probably it's standardized. And I think today with the online, it's much easier to do like a pull strategy as well, because we have data. I think the biggest difference between the past and the present is that marketing is still the same. Like, you have something, you need to, I would say, allocate it to people in some ways, right? I try to keep it simple, but what really changed is the data collection you have. So let's say in the past you were spending, I don't know, millions to put your billboard at the airport, right? Because you knew that X amount of people were passing through the airport and would see your message. But you didn't know who these people were, and you didn't really know how many people. But you knew that a big amount of people saw your ad, and then eventually you knew that some of these people could go to the shop and buy your product, okay? But you didn't know who these people were and how many. Today with the internet, you actually know how many people saw the ad, who these people were, so the demographic, the interest, and everything, and then eventually how many of these people actually are going to the shop and actually buying the product. And you also know what type of product they're buying, so then you can eventually remarket, you can cross-sell, upsell, and etc. So I think the power is data. Now, if you know how to read this data properly, then you can, as Chiara was saying, better understand your audience and then personalize your approach to your audience. So I think the future will be that a website will be different based on the people.
Yeah.
And this is super powerful. Like, to give you like a quick insight, if you look at retail marketing, right? In the past, every brand was fighting in a supermarket for the same shelf. So I don't know, in Rome, you have one supermarket, everyone is fighting for this shelf. Where today, the same supermarket is online. So in theory, there are infinite shelves because every person sees a different shelf. And for a brand, this is so powerful because you can actually spend less money, but you can appear on the right place, right? So yeah, it's all about how you read this
Yeah,
data and use it.
exactly. It's not just about how many data you have available, but it's more about how you interpret this data in order to gain a valuable information that you can act on in order to sell more, but also give a benefit to your customer, which is not just a benefit for the company, but also for the customer. And I really like what you were saying about the e-commerce and the virtual shelf that you have, because it's more about making, positioning better all of the things that you have depending on the person you are in front of. So it's about putting more empathy in technology, putting more empathy in marketing through technology by understanding the characteristics of your customer and of your different customers.
Yeah.
And I can give you just one example because I've worked in the past a few years ago with a company working in the energy sector in Italy, which is one of the biggest companies in the energy sector focused on digital. So they are only digital. And what we understood is that, but they are also very active in protecting the environment. So they do a lot on a social responsibility side. And by analyzing the behavior of users, of potential customers on the website, we understood what were the users more interested in the digital side of the company, in the innovation aspects, and those that were much more interested in the values and the social responsibility part. And so we personalized the homepage based on these two types of users.
Yeah, and by the way, I was gonna say, I think the old view of marketing, I mean, what people think, usually marketing is I have a product and I have to sell it to people, right? Well, I think is if you put it in another way, you're like, I want to help people, right? And when you look at it in this way, then I'm helping you make the best decision for you. Then it gets back to your point when we were talking about why a brand should be too focused on selling, or like how do you build the relationship. This is the thing. If you build a relationship around, I wanna help you, I wanna listen to you, I want you to make your best choice, and then eventually the best choice is me, then you kind of change the framework, and it's not then selling anymore, it's then helping. And then I give you an example. When people say, I don't like advertising and data collection because it's actually disturbing my experience on YouTube, on television, or whatever. Honestly, if you do data collection properly and you're able to tell the right story, so then we can talk about it, but like storytelling is key, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about entertaining and telling a story. This is why usually marketing is very connected to entertainment as well, right? If you're able to tell a story, you are not actually interrupting my experience. Of course, we all hate when we're watching a movie and we see, I don't know, like an advertising. But if it's the right advertising, this is actually helping me find a new software that can help me in my daily routine with my work, or like I'm, I'm able to find a new product, I don't know, anything that might help me out, right? So I think if you change the framework, and it's not just about I want to sell you something, but I want to help you out, and I show the right advertisement, then advertising can be cool, can be nice, can be, entertaining as well. So I'm a big fan of storytelling, because like if you're able to then get him back to videos, if you're able to deliver the right format and the right content to the people, I think people will love it. And I'm one of these people that I love watching, I don't know, advertising, because I find it cool as well. Like it's a lot of art behind it as well, right? So it's just a matter of telling the right story to the right people, of course, right?
I would just like to go a step back to the question about AI, because we're talking about some 6 techniques, persuasive techniques. By the way, it's a really popular book for the last 30, 40 years. So who wants to buy it? Robert Cialdini, yeah, it's called Influence, in Serbian.
And he wrote another one a few years ago, which is called Persuasion, because
yeah, it's an updated version
and
with the new technology insights.
exactly, but also talking to marketing professionals, because when he wrote the first book, he was he was talking to consumers, but then he discovered that marketing professionals were much more interested in the book rather than consumers. So he wrote
I bought that one. It's called Utica in Serbian. So
Wow.
it's a good book. It's a good recommendation to all the people that are listening. If they want to find out more about these techniques, we don't have enough time to go through all of them. I just wanted to go back to the AI question, because we were talking about emotions. We need to understand human behavior. We need to define our audience, who we talk about, who we talk to. But when we think about the AI, can artificial intelligence understand those emotions? Can we rely on it? What's your perspective? Because we started about like innovation, technology, but I think we didn't have that aspect. Like, can we rely on everything that AI recommends? Like,
well, AI is advancing a lot. A few years ago, we were thinking that AI could support us just in very standardized and repetitive tasks, that AI cannot be creative. It's not the case now. So we have proofs that AI can also perform creative tasks, which doesn't mean that AI is creative. It's something pretty different. The same is for understanding emotions. AI is able to predict a behavior, and maybe you as a human can connect that this behavior has been moved by a specific emotion. So this is my personal view on the topic, because I don't have all the answers on this, but I think that today is essential for every marketing professional, for every entrepreneur to understand what are the skills that are just humans, that distinguish our species from the artificial intelligence, and what are those in which artificial intelligence is much more better than us. I use AI a lot in my job, and for the data analysis part, I use AI every time. So where do I intervene? Before and after. To decide, for example, talking about marketing, to decide what is important to look at, and after the data analysis, how do I interpret this output? So one of the soft skills, talking about AI and soft skills that are pretty connected, that are strictly connected. For example, critical thinking becomes essential, because you cannot use the output that AI gives you without being critical on it, and deciding if it's the output that you need, or if you need to do a different, to make a different question. Okay, so even the ability to make the right question becomes another essential skills in a digital and AI-driven world. So to answer your question, I think that AI is empowering us by enabling us to put much more effort in all those things in which we are the only one who can give a value.
Great.
Yeah, I
Do
mean,
you
the
rely on
way
AI in
I use it every day. I mean, as Chiara mentioned, I usually say AI is the super smart and underpaid assistant we were all looking for, right? Because
Yeah,
I don't know, I use
exactly.
ChatGPT every day. It's like $20 per month, and it helps me write emails, brainstorming, like anything you will use an intern for, like in the past. Like, I don't know, if you are an intern and you need to educate the intern, explain everything, and then guide, correct. Like I see AI as like a super smart intern. You know what I mean? Where if you give the right prompts, and I think a new skill. Of course, we can talk about it and we can deep dive each skill. I think, of course, critical thinking, emotional intelligence are key, but then also prompting AI. So asking the right question to get the right answer. I think this is key. Regarding emotions, I mean, I remember I went to the Microsoft office in London 2 years ago. So, and AI is evolving so fast. 2 years ago, they had this game where they had a camera, and the camera was able to read your state of mind. So, if you were happy, unhappy, but not even just smiling or not, just by reading the facial expression, AI was able to understand what type of emotion you were feeling. Of course, that wasn't 100% correct. The thing about AI is that if you go to therapy, right? Let's think about psychology, right? Like if you go to a therapist, the therapist is able to understand your feelings and behavior based on what you say, right? Think about a AI therapist that is able to have access to all your WhatsApp chats, to all your Instagram, to all your online behavior, plus what you say, plus what you communicate. And this, by the way, this therapist, AI therapist, doesn't have like kind of a bias as well, because then of course usually a therapist is, I mean, a therapist is a human being, so of course it's always bias. Without bias, plus all the information, I think it's so powerful, and then in theory it could be more powerful and help you more than a person in theory. Then of course we need to have empathy, you need to have emotional intelligence, things that the person has and then a machine doesn't have, right? So I think there is this balance. But getting back to work, I usually say AI and I did this speech like a few months ago around AI, and I said, AI has two type of effect. Is a top line and bottom line effect. So on bottom line effect, we see it every day. We already saw the impact, which is productivity. We're very more productive right now. I write emails in 1 minute instead of 10 minutes. I helps me brainstorming, even write, I don't know, like an article. So think about the copywriting job, right? Someone writing a book. I'm sure like people writing books, they still need to write it, but you can ask AI to help you out. I have a friend that is doing like a PhD, and he told me, look, after AI, I even like just brainstorming and collecting different articles and sources. I can ask AI, can you collect 10 different sources for this topic? In the past, I had to ask people, I had to go and search online. Today, you can ask ChatGPT, and it's giving you all this information. Of course, the new skill is being able to understand which info is better than the others. But like it's already saving you like 2 weeks of work, right? So productivity 100%, and also innovation, because of course you still need to guide it, but we able to create new products. Think about AI on Netflix, Spotify. Like Spotify is already creating like personalized playlist for you. And in the past, you had to follow like the right artist. They could give you the right playlist based on your mood and taste. Today, Spotify is able to understand what music you like based on the time of the day, based on the period of your life. They already know if you just broke up, so they can make you cry for the next 2 months just with music, right? So yeah, it's so powerful. So it's also building a lot of creativity because we creating new startups, new products based on AI, but you still need the human touch, right? You still need people to guide the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So what skills we need to nourish, human skills? You said critical thinking.
Yes.
What are the other skills that we need to study and grow in our teams if we don't want AI to overtake, the biggest, everybody is so afraid of when AI came, like we're gonna lose jobs and the rest, but it's helpful when we use it in the right way. So
Yeah, let me mention what the World Economic Forum says, because there's this biannual report which is called The Future of Jobs, and the last one in 2023, they listed the top 10 skills of today and the next future, so in the period of the next 5 years. The most important skills we as professionals, we need to focus, and companies as well, need to focus on in order to be competitive and to remain competitive on the market. And it's quite intuitive to understand why 8 out of the 10 skills that they mention are soft skills, are human skills, because one of the skills is the ability to use and create technology, including AI, of course. Another one is quality control. And all the others, so 8 of these 10 skills are soft skills, including critical thinking, creative thinking, leadership and social influence. So the ability to motivate other people, to motivate the team if you are a manager, so important, especially if you work remotely, for example. Emotional intelligence, which is not a single skill, but is a set of skills. It is made of empathy, listening, even self-awareness and self-regulation. So these are the skills of the future, and these are human skills. So when we talk about, or is AI in some ways make us lose our job? It's not. It's that AI is changing the workplace, the landscape in which we are.
I mean, AI makes people lose jobs if they are not able to upskill or reskill, because this is the challenge is that the evolution is going faster than people, kind of upskilling and reskilling. So the challenge I see is that people will lose their job if they're not able to keep studying and kind of understanding the new trend. So I always tell my students, and this is probably the difference between the present and the past is that in the past you went to university, you get a degree, and finally you can get your job and get on with your life and forget about studying, right? Today you need to keep studying. Like I see my job, like I don't know, like doing advertising on Google. Like I give you an easy example. Like Google changed so much in the last 5 years that if you don't keep studying, you lose it. Even like video editing, I'm sure, like graphic design, is changing so fast. So you need to keep studying. And I think this is the hardest skill today is actually keep yourself motivated in upskilling and reskilling. So this is 100%. So I think then we need to be responsible on that. And I think companies need to keep updating and upskilling their employees. So I think also finding time to study. So I think if I was a company founder or like a CEO, I will give I don't know the Friday off to keep studying, to find new interest, to keep kind of learning because I mean it's a lifelong learning path. On the other side, I think the quality control is key. Yeah, because I think AI is giving you a lot of info, but then you need to be able to understand if this is right or not, because AI is not always right. Most of the times it's wrong, by the way. So, for example, another skill I give to my students, like my class, I have a class is called media planning. So the objective is to be able to, I give you an objective, I give you a target, and you need to plan a marketing campaign. So what I usually do, I tell my students, forget about AI. Just I give you the basics, and you need to plan a campaign in the old school, right? So like how you did it. So you have those principles, and you need to plan a campaign the old school way. So do it like in a practical way. And then at the end of the class, I ask them, yeah, now you can ask AI to do it for you. But the difference is that when they ask AI, they notice that, I don't know, 50% of the AI information are either wrong or biased or just as a different point of view. So what I'm telling them is that if you're able to do it yourself, then you better able to quality control and then prompt AI as well. So I think it's pretty powerful when you already know how to make it, and then you can ask some advices. Simply like if you know how to make a cake and you know the recipe, then you can ask AI, how would you make this cake? And you understand where is right, where is wrong, and you get the best practice. So I think we still need to know how to do it the old school way to kind of then guide it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you make me think because continuous learning is one of the skills mentioned by the World Economic
Okay.
Forum, by the way. And you also touched another essential point, which is around biases, because AI is full of biases because it relies on the data, the already available data. And the data are a product of our society and how society works. So if you pick the output of an AI and use it as it is, you will continue to perpetuate these stereotypes. And this is especially true, for example, in hiring processes. AI can make you think, can position in a better way people which are not in minority groups. So I would also add into the skills the ethics and the ability to innovate and to progress what AI is telling us by adding something that changes, that breaks stereotypes rather than perpetuating them.
Yeah, we were talking about education, we were talking about ethics. That's everything we need to explore if we need to prepare future marketers to get their way through all these dilemmas, like do they need to use it? How can they use it in a good way? Do you think that the educational system needs to also evolve? So
Yeah. I think I usually say you need to have two skills. You need to be university smart and street smart, right? So university smart, of course, you need to have the knowledge, the hard skills, right? So, but this is changing a lot because if you think about it, let's think about the role of universities, right? In the past, before the internet, university was the source of truth, right? Is where you had libraries, you had books, And so you had libraries. You go there, you get the information. So this is the source of truth. Then eventually you have the professor who already read all of these books. So you don't have to go through all the books because the professor will tell you the story. Of course, also the professor is biased, right? Because he doesn't remember everything. They might like some topics more than others, and we all went through this, right? High school, middle school, but even universities, where you could tell where a professor had some political beliefs, and they always try to put their touch, which is also part of the game, right? And this has been evolving because if you think about it, the role of universities, still, I'm talking about the universities, but the knowledge, then with the internet, so the information technology society, then you don't have to go to the library anymore. You can just Google it. Next step, you don't have to just Google it. You can ask ChatGPT now. Can you explain in few words and give me the main takeaways of each of these topics? So I think the role of the professor in that sense of the university smart, in the university, smart side, I'm not saying it's declining, but it's changing. Because of course, you can ask, I mean, you don't, in theory, you don't have to go to university anymore. Like if I want to study medicine tomorrow, I don't have to go to university. I can simply find on Google and ChatGPT anything, and I can keep studying and learn everything on paper, right? What you're missing on all of this is the practical aspect. So I think, and this is what you learn at work, and this is, I think, the biggest gap between studying and working, and we all realize that, is that when you are at uni, you study a lot of concept, and then when you need to apply it on your work environment, they're so different. Sometimes they change a lot, right? So you need to be able to transfer this knowledge, and I think the best universities are the one that are able to make you apply those topics at universities first, because it's more like a control environment, right? So when we start working, we usually have our first internship. We start understanding that it's not just about working in marketing, but it's also about understanding people. So I remember I did this lab at university where I actually, with my students in a marketing class, we call it a marketing lab, and I allowed my students to actually build a marketing agency. So we got real clients, and they had to be consultants. So I split the students in groups, and they had real companies. They gave them a budget, and they were like, "This is my business problem. Can you help me out?" And funny enough, I asked students after like a month of working with the clients, I asked them, what was the hardest part? And they were like, look, the hardest part is not the marketing side, it's understanding those people, because they have a, they have a need, but they don't even know what the need is. So they said, I'm not even a marketing manager, I'm a psychologist. And this is really true. So I think today, getting back to your question, I think the real skill then is actually the soft skill, is the street smart skill, is actually being able to read the person in front of you, understand what's their need if you're trying to sell. But also, like, if you work in an environment, companies are made of people. You need to understand that everyone is going through something every day. So you have a family, you have your struggles, and with the pandemic and with the internet, is even this process accelerates, because of course when you meet people in person, it's much easier if you have emotional intelligence to understand them. But behind the camera and behind the laptop, it's so different, right? So being able to listen, be nice, and this is what I do. For example, in my classes, I put students in front of real life problem, and I make them work together. So my class is usually international students, and cultures are different. So when you put, I don't know, like a Chinese person working with an Italian person, right? Okay, every person is different, but culturally they're also very different. So what I try to do is to make them have conflicts. And when I see different people having conflict, I try to make them work more together, because I want them to argue, fight, and find a solution together. So I think the new skill is actually being able to live together and work together.
So your advice to companies to educate their employees, to give them space for
Living,
studies,
yeah.
And also we need personal growth, we need emotional intelligence, so they can adapt to this constant change and this like speed pace that we're living. Do you have some other advice? Because we have some interesting companies, small businesses that are trying to adapt their marketing campaigns, but your advice is first start with your team, with your people.
Yeah, I would say yes. Start with your team and with your people, with their ability to listen to your customers, and then the tools will come, because the tools to listen to customers can vary even on the budget that you have available. So, for example, I know that one of the topics that you wanted to talk about is neuromarketing. The usage of all the technologies and neuroscience tools that enable us as companies, as professionals, to understand the emotions that, for example, a marketing message evokes in our customers, and this is powerful. Of course, the cost of this technology is decreasing, but it's pretty high, depending on if you are using eye tracking or electroencephalography or facial recognition, because these are the tools used in neuromarketing. But it's not just about that. Marketing psychology and the ability to listen to customer can be realized also with other tools such as voice of customer, interviews, surveys. The ability to combine these tools, these different ways to listen to customers, I think would be the key. And even the ability to understand emotions and how to use our ability to evoke emotions, because you mentioned emotions before and the importance of emotions in marketing. Of course it is. I did a tech talk about a few years ago about neuromarketing and the importance of understanding our customers' emotions in order to be more persuasive and more effective as companies, as marketers. And of course, I started from this point, but at the same time, there is an ethical issue. So, which kind of emotion are you evoking in order to sell that product? Think, for example, about beauty products. When we were used to receive marketing messages focusing on insecurity in order to sell more about these beauty products. But what about focusing much more on well-being and personal growth? In order to sell the same product, you can leverage very different emotions. So finding the right emotion is not just something to sell more, but also to make people, customers, feel better and more aligned with your values.
Yeah, thank you that you put this topic on the workflow. We wanted to give a new marketing perspective, because this is a topic that on our previous marketing meetups we didn't talk about. So neuromarketing is a really wide field. We can just go from the basics to try to help them understand. But in a way, as you said, we have also some ethical dilemmas with it. Are we playing with human emotions in a way, because we try to understand them better so we can sell them more stuff? So
Exactly.
it's not a friendly human touch that we already talked about. So when we talk about neuromarketing, do you use it in Lipton? Do you have experience working with it? What's your advice that you can tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I know like brands, for example, I don't know, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, they doing those experiments, right? They, for example, they know that when the sound of opening a can makes people, I don't know, feel happy, right? Or like there are some studies that say, you know, when you open like a champagne bottle, like that sound makes people happy. Indeed, in my podcast, in the intro, we actually put that sound. And funny enough, a lot of people told me, look, and also during the podcast, when we change some scenes, you have this sound. And few people told me, really, I really like this sound. So brands, of course, use it. They know, for example, that bright colors, like on the packaging, helps grab attention, right? So, but then again, it depends on the budget. And I think the main difference between traditional marketing and then the neuro marketing is that traditional marketing is trying to find the explanation using data and psychology, what neuro marketing is actually using tools, like it's more like doctor based, if you know what I mean, right? Because it's actually reading your brain, your eyes, and your face. So it's actually giving more like a scientific approach to what marketers and psychologists already been doing, right? It's like the famous body language, right? There are people able to read the body language. And so if you do some public speaking classes, right, this is what they teach you. Is like they teach you that if you're like in this position, you're more like closed, like you are more open. So when you see like I don't know politicians like talking in public, usually they take those public speaking classes because they wanna have a body language that is actually showing people that are open, they are nice, right? So I think brands use it in some ways to do market research when you do like product development, for example, right? And we know that packaging in retail, it's important, or like in stores, right? Like if a store is too bright or less bright, is it changing the behavior? I remember there was this experiment that was proving that if you have a restaurant or a wine bar and you actually like you have less bright lights and nice music, actually people consumption of alcohol increase because people tend to drink more and spend more time where the lights are less bright. And or for example in fast food chains you see that the light is very bright and colors are very bright because they want you to fast food, right, to eat fast and live because they need more people,
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to say that those are like appetite colors. All the fast foods are
Yeah.
with really bright colors that literally hurt your
Pepsi,
eyes
right?
when
Pepsi.
you're there, but they're like making you eat more. That because neuromarketing relies on like understanding how our brain works and reacts to those
Slot
kind of
machines,
stimuli.
right? When you look at the betting companies, slot machines, the sound is addictive, the
Completely.
colors, you know what I mean? They make all of this to keep people attention. And let's be honest, like all of these platforms like Instagram, TikTok are built with the same concept of slot machines, right?
Yeah.
That's why
Trying
the
to
importance of ethics. So to mention another famous experiment, and then which has been carried on in the 80s. Now we don't know if everything was true or not. Yeah, we don't know, but it has become very famous. Talking about neuromarketing is one of the most famous. It's called the Pepsi Coke experiment. And what did they do? They took two groups of people tasting Coca-Cola and Pepsi uh, without seeing the brand in one case, and in the other case seeing the brand. And what happened? It happened that when they were seeing the brand, okay, I know that I'm tasting Coca-Cola, I know that I'm tasting Pepsi. At the question, what do you prefer? People mostly said Coca-Cola. But with the blind test, so without seeing the brand, they said, well, I prefer Pepsi. And then with the electroencephalography, they saw what happens in the brain of consumers when they taste a Coca-Cola, knowing that it's Coca-Cola. And it happens
power
that
of brand,
The
yes,
power of
it's the
branding.
power of brand. It's all about the messages that during the years have created this association of happiness.
Emotions,
It's
Coca-Cola,
about
New Year's
emotions.
commercials and everything.
But what do I mean? The line between influence and manipulation is always very blurred. So if you are doing it for the good of consumers as well as the good of your business, of course, you are influencing. But if you are just thinking about your good, your benefits as a company without considering or even exploiting consumers, then you are manipulating. That's why we need to include ethics among the skills of the present and of the future, not just for social purposes, even if, in my view, this should be enough. But even because consumers, rather than before, they are much more aware, they are much more conscious, and they are much more attentive about the social responsibility of companies.
Yeah, and it gets back to the willingness to help people, right? So if you are a brand and you are honest with your users, and you actually, because let's be honest, of course people love brands for many reasons, right? But if you can be like, look, my t-shirt is the same quality of this other t-shirt, right? Same quality. But of course that one costs like 30% more because there is a logo, right? So of course, like let's say some people buy that t-shirt because of the logo. But why? Some people buy it because of the logo is representing higher quality. Some people buy it because they want to show people they're wearing that logo, so they are part of their social proof. They're part of this group, right? Of course, if people want to be part of that group, you can really fight that, right? Because of course they're buying it because of the brand. But if they're buying it because, I don't know, that brand is representing quality, and you can educate people telling them, look, you can buy my product, it's the exact same quality, but you are not paying for the brand, so it's 30% off, let's say, then you're winning, right? So I think this is the competitive advantage as well, is that when brand, instead of trying to fight that brand, is just educating their consumers. So I think one of the key messaging, the message I would like to deliver here is that educating the consumer is a key marketing tool. When you honest with your consumer, you are transparent, and you can tell them, look, this bottle doesn't have the brand, so of course it's not representing you if you wanted to be represented with that brand characteristic, but it has the same quality and you actually saving money. So I'm helping you because I'm giving you the same quality at the lower price. You're winning, but you need to tell them like the complete truth, because as Chiara said, consumers today are much more informed than in the past because you got the internet. I mean, you can actually check everything online now, right? So
Do you think we can use those tools like neuromarketing but responsibly? Like, where's the line? How can we apply those manipulative techniques? But is it in a way that we want to help our buyers? Just to, I think we presented it in a bad way, considering all the ethics. Is there a way we can use those techniques in a good way?
Of course, because even evoking emotions should be something positive and for the good. So neuromarketing can also be used to find the best message in order, for example, to promote messages such as diversity and inclusion, to give you just an example. Or, as I was mentioning before, to sell you the same product, I can leverage on the same beauty product, just to reuse the example of the beauty product. I can try to make you feel insecure about yourself and your body, or I can focus on body diversity, on other kinds of emotions and concepts, which make you also feel better, which are something that promotes mental well-being, which is another element which is essential for today's consumers. For example, if we talk about new generations, and so. As I was saying, neuromarketing is a tool. So it's essential to have a clear focus on how do we want to use it for the good or for the bad. And of course, we hope for the good.
And
Yeah.
I can give you an example like Dove, right? I was speaking
Yeah.
to the CMO of Dove, and they're very famous for now it's
Body
been 20 years,
positivity.
right, of the body positivity campaigns. And I actually did my final thesis of my master around Dove because the correlation between self-esteem in women and the message they were delivering. And I think Dove were one of the first to actually, sell the idea of body positivity. And what the chief marketing officer was mentioning is that they are a brand with a purpose. So the guideline through those many years was they had a purpose, and the purpose was actually helping people using their product. So and then look, at the end of the day, they managed to sell more products. So let's not, lie about this. Of course, they've been selling more, but while helping people as well. So if you focus on helping people, make them feel better, you get your purpose of, selling more, but at the same time helping people as well. So I'm a big fan of positive marketing. I think the narrative of, the last few decades has been that marketing is, like the devil, because of course in a capitalistic world where you're not buying a t-shirt because you feel cold. You're buying a t-shirt because you want to feel better than the others in some way. So I'm trying to sell you what you don't need, right? There might be a part of it that is true. But then on the other side, I think it's our responsibility as marketing managers, sales, whatever, to actually help the others. So when you talk to these people, like you can tell they've been helping the society as well because they delivering the message of body positivity so people can feel better with their body and yeah they eventually buy the product. And look, when I did my, if we want to be more scientific, when I did my final thesis, I did this study, around so the idea was to show different type of ads with different body types, and we actually realized that the product was perceived as more effective with a body type that was more realistic as well. So in theory, having like beautiful women doesn't really always help. Probably in the car industry might help because the audience is more like guys, so there is a different touch. But like on a cosmetic world, actually being real helps also on the product effectiveness.
And this has a lot to do with activism, and so that's why we talk a lot about brand activism. So brands which are carrying on not just for profit purposes, but even social purposes, and they can go together. But at the same time, what you were saying, so body positivity and using messages that showcase people which are real, which are like every one of us, is also going back to marketing psychology, applying another persuasive principle, which is the one of liking, that says that we tend to prefer and to be more convinced by who we perceive as similar to us. And this happens with people as well as with brands. So trying to be similar to your customer is something that also makes them more intended, more prone to even to buy from you and to
And
remain
this is
loyal.
why influencer marketing is big today, because people are becoming brands. Because I would rather trust Chiara than not like a brand that is cold and not animated. You know what I mean? So this is the power of influencer marketing. I think is because these people are real. Like you see them every day. You see them. Of course, everyone then is trying to build their own character and like communication strategy. But some of them, you see them growing up. You see them crying, breaking up, getting married, having the first kid, and you relay, more. You trust them. So this is why I think brands are trying to associate more with influencers because influencers are real and
They are real people. And the other thing about influencer marketing, which is and continues to be a trend now, is that if today brands were much more focused on the number of followers of these influencers, now they are much more focused on the values and the alignment between the values of the brand and the values of the person, of the influencer. And the fact that in many cases the influencer is an expert in some ways of the product that you are selling, and this makes us go back to the persuasive principles because the another one is called authority. So I tend to trust and to buy more from a brand that I perceive experts about what they are trying to sell. And this is the same with the influencer marketing.
We were talking about neuromarketing. We wanted to explore it, but it's a pretty expensive option for many small companies and local businesses. So as I understand, we're talking about emotions, but your recommendation is storytelling, influencer marketing. How can smaller companies come to people and evoke emotions through trust? We want to
But you
Give
still
them
have
some
tools.
practical
I
advice.
think
Yeah.
you still have tools like to kind of understand people behavior online. For example, on websites you have like heat maps, right? There are softwares like Hotjar and others that allow you to understand where people focus more when going to a website. So you already know where you want to put your key information. Like we know that most of people don't scroll until the end of the website. So you want to put all your call to actions, the main information in the first half of the website. We already know that. So you don't have to read the people mind or facial expression because there are already studies that did this. Or you can use those softwares to analyze your website and understand what each person is doing. Or you can test different colors. Like if I have a call to action, I can test, and websites like booking.com, Airbnb, Zalando, like big e-commerce website, they do this every day, every hour. They test different colors, different variation. And of course, in the present, what we're doing is we're testing like different call to action. So is this button, are people clicking more if this is yellow, red, or green? Are people clicking more if it's written book now, click now, or call me now? But what we're doing right now, and in the near future with AI, landing pages will change based on the person that sees it. So if you go on the same website, you see different information that I do, because of course this is appealing more. And it's the same thing with the digital shelf, e-commerce. Like if you search on e-commerce, you will see different products than me. Even if you search on Google, if you search on Google, I don't know, best restaurant in town, you will see different restaurants than me, right? So again, we need to go back to the skill of being able to understand what's
And to be
good for me or
empathic.
not. Yeah, and empathic. Um, but yeah, also like simply storytelling. I think yeah, I'm a big fan. Look, my background is performance marketing, so delivering the highest amount of clicks at the lowest price. But I think being able to tell a nice story and being empathetic by telling the right story to the right people, I think is key. And being honest and being transparent. At the end of the day, people are not stupid. Like people, we know, we're consumers, and we know when a brand is trying to, when a brand is honest or not. So I think simply being honest, I think is the
Yeah.
key.
So it's not just about storytelling, but even story doing. So do even what you
Walk the
say that
talk.
you are doing, because
Don't do
consumers
it
are
just
much
for the
more
reels.
informed. Exactly.
And he can go against you as well. Like how many examples of brand that been saying, I don't know, I help this group of people, and then they don't do it properly, and then these people might, take pictures and go viral with the campaigns against you. So even the thing about reviews, right? And the word of mouth, because I think word of mouth, in my opinion, is the oldest and most powerful channel. And today we see the evolution of word of mouth online, right? Influencers marketing. Influencers are our virtual best friends, right? So if like I'm in London today and I'm looking to find a restaurant, I have two options. I can Google best restaurant in town, or I can ask Chiara, who has been living in London for 10 years, what restaurant do you suggest? And I trust the Chiara 100%. So word of mouth is there. The only thing is you need to be careful as a brand, because negative word of mouth in the past was bad. Today is even worse because everyone can read it now.
Yeah.
So yeah, also listening to your community, fixing problems, being active, I think is key as well.
Do you have some other practical tips? I think it's really interesting what you say. They don't need a really large budget to do some things that can help them improve their websites. From your experience, and you have it doing with really big brands, like what can they do for their websites? You said for their social media, like how can they give them some maybe advice how to make some interesting stories for their businesses?
I think from a social perspective, like if we want to talk about social media, hire someone junior that is already, because if you think about it now, we all the marketing manager of ourselves. If you think about a teenager, right? They're already trying to sell their self every day on the internet. Not everyone, but like everyone is trying to give at least kind of an image, and it's kind of selling like and delivering a message. So if you're able to are like a junior that of course has been studying marketing or like communication and telling this, if you want to of course give like a younger approach, an image of your brand, right? You can ask these students, like new interns, try to play with my social media, play with it, do some reels, take some image. Like user generated content today is powerful also because people trust it more, it's more transparent. Also, the distance between a brand and the consumer today is much smaller. So use like younger people perspective to have a more like an innovative approach. And then also keep your website simple and go straight to the point. Like, what do you want to deliver with your website? Do you want to sell? Maybe use those like templates that everyone is using because are easy to use, like Shopify, for example. If you want to start an e-commerce, simply use Shopify, focus because they're already doing it properly. They're already studying the user experience, the user interface. Focus more on choosing the right product instead of spending too much time on making the best website. Because at the end of the day, you already have templates that allow you to do that. Like same for graphic design, you can use Canva. You don't have to, you know what I mean? Like do it simple, but do it effectively instead of trying to reach the stars. Try to at least get out of your place first and then get to the stars.
What do you think about email marketing? Is it a
In
thing?
my opinion, it's the most powerful channel because it's a great point. The challenge I find as a marketing manager, as a content creator, is that you are linked too much to the algorithm change. So as Chiara was saying, of course, followers are important, but you might have, I don't know, 1 million followers today. By the way, today is not just about the followers, it's the reach you have. So how many people are reaching, you are reaching. So the problem is that if you don't keep people engaged, your reach goes down. The algorithm change, if you're not able to adapt to the algorithm, as is not always easy, your reach goes down. So as a brand, and why platforms do this? Also because they want you to spend more money on advertising. Let's
When
be
they
honest.
see it's an advertising,
So what you
they
want to do then,
lower the reach.
what you want to do at the end of the day is do less organic because then you spend more money in advertising. So advertising is great, it's my job, but you need to know how to use it properly. One thing that is very powerful is lead generation. When you have people emails, if you use it properly, email marketing, in my opinion, is key. Because if you have 1 million follower, I think it's less powerful than having, I don't know, like 100,000 people emails. Of course, you need to know how to use it properly because there is a difference between remarketing and spamming and stalking, right?
Yeah.
But if you know how to use it properly, yeah, emails. I'm a big fan of emails, and this is what I do on my website. I collect people email, and I'm asking, look, if you want to know more about my topics, subscribe because I know that when I send you the email, you get the email. When I post on LinkedIn or on Instagram, on YouTube, I see my reach going down because everyone reach is going down. So
People like practical tips, so that's why I'm
yeah, no,
staying on this
yeah.
question still. We will.
I mean, do you agree with the
Yeah.
like the emails or?
Yeah, of course. I'm much more focused on the part of the research and the listening of customers than this kind of insights are needed in email and whatever tool that we use to reach our customers. So I think that key today is the ability to gain insights from our customers about what are their main drivers, what is motivating them to buy, or what is preventing them from buying from us. So I think that voice of customers that can be conducted even through surveys and every touch point that we have, it can be physical, it can be digital, is a touch point that we can use to listen to our customers. Or by asking direct questions, explicit questions, or by understanding the behavior online or offline, as Giovanni was saying. And the important thing is the ability to interpret this data, not just gaining data, but even interpreting them. So another it's not a tip, but more a suggestion that I can give is to create multidisciplinary teams. in which there are multiple skills together that are able to analyze data, but to interpret data, to understand what kind of data do we need in order to be more effective in our sales.
Yeah, great. We have 15 more minutes. I'm now talking to the audience. If you have any questions, please ask through our chat box. We have more time to answer. And I would really like to go back to the emails, because you said you love them. So we can use them in many ways, not only to sell things, as you said. It's not always our purpose just to try to make them buy
To
something.
help people as well.
Yeah. What can you recommend? Is it maybe for some blogs, or to ask people to hear a feedback? Like, what can we send through our email list?
I mean, I think one of the key things of email marketing is that you need to split your audience in different sub audiences. Because let's say, I don't know, I talk about wine, I don't know, right? But then I might have my audience that is a sub audience more interested about white, the other one about red, the other one about, I don't know, sparkling, right? So I think also splitting your audience in small audiences, then it goes back to what Chiara was saying at the beginning about listening and understanding and personalizing, right? So I think this is key as well. And also like test and learn. What we have today is, yeah, of course, data, but like how to read this data? Simply like if you look at the opening rate of emails. So if I send an email about, I don't know, wine, an email about orange juice, an email about water, and I noticed that the email about water has an open rate higher than the one about wine. Let's talk about water more, right? So I always say that every marketing campaign is not just a performance marketing campaign. So it's not just about driving clicks, but it's also a market research. So I have a few examples of marketing managers that use, I don't know, campaigns on Instagram to actually test new products development. So I was speaking to the Lavazza innovation marketing manager. Lavazza is the coffee brand innovation marketing manager in Italy, and they wanted to test like a new product. And of course, when you test a new product and you want to launch it, there is a lot of investment behind it because you need to develop, do the market research, then you launch the product, you need to place the product, you need to do the advertising. So there is a huge budget behind it. Or you can simply what they did, they create a landing page. They promote the brand like the product was coming soon and asking the people if they wanted to join the waiting list. And they realized, for example, by launching different variables. So let's say, do they prefer the new bottle, let's say, do they prefer the new bottle to be red or blue? Right? They launched an A/B test and they realized that people prefer the bottle to be blue. So you know that the product you will launch needs to be blue instead of red. And this is already like a market research you did with like 2,000 euro. Or I give you another example. A friend of mine just launched a startup and they wanted to learn more about is the people interest about the problem we're trying to solve. So what we did is, and of course they need some data to then of course collect money for investors, right? So what we did is we launched like a Google Ads campaign, so advertising on Google when people are searching for those search terms, right? And we realized that with only spending 500 euro, people were actually very interested in it because you can tell by the click-through rate. We know the click-through rate is 20%, which is big considering the benchmark of that industry is like 5%. So we already know that there is huge interest. So of course, it's not scaling the business with 500 euro, but it's collecting this data. Now it's going to investors saying, guys, look what I did with 500 euro. Think if you gave me 500K, right? So, and this is so powerful. So they're using marketing not just to sell, a product, but to sell ideas to investors, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with the point that you mentioned about the A/B testing used as a tool to do research and to understand something about what is the product that works, the version of the product that works best, depending, for example, on the color or other features. But also, we can test with A/B testing different messages about the same product. And by testing different messages and see which one performs better, we can understand subsequently something about our customers. Because if we, for example, to sell the same product, we use two different messages that leverage on a different psychological factor, a different persuasive technique, then by looking at the answers, at the richness that we have on these two messages, we can understand something about our customers that can then enrich our customer profiling, the so-called buyer persona. So how do we create our buyer personas? Around which kind of characteristics? Are they just demographic, social demographic characteristics, or we can include some psychological factors that will help us in the future to drive, to use more powerful messages. So just to give you an example, with a fashion brand, I tested two types of communications because one message was focused on the need for uniqueness, so was aimed at making you feeling original, unique. The other one was aimed at making you feeling part of something, of a larger group. And then we discovered that the majority of people preferred the uniqueness one. And so when I was telling at the beginning that choosing a message means choosing a personality, this is the case. So we understood by that the ideal customer of this brand was a person with a high need for uniqueness. The other case that we did is with the energy the company in the energy sector. We used two different messages. One was focused on the innovation, on the digital soul of the company. The other one was focused on the social purpose. And we understood that the customers were much more interested on the innovation part.
Do you have any advice, some basic tips for small businesses? How can they find that persona? Is there a process they can do internally, or they need some external help, some experts that can help them define who they're talking to? You told us that we need to ask our audience through which channels we can come to our broader audience and ask them for some update, some of their experiences. Is there any recommendation from your side?
What I suggest is to hire, let's say, multidisciplinary teams in order to have in-house this kind of skills. For example, people who are expert in marketing psychology, people who are expert in market research and data analysis. So we can combine these things because if you analyze just the behaviors of users, you are missing the part of what they explicitly say. At the same time, if you are just asking questions, you are missing the part of analyzing what they spontaneously do. So my suggestion is to combine direct feedback that your customers can give you, and you can use surveys, questionnaires conveyed by emails or in your website or in store, whatever, wherever, with more implicit ways of understanding behaviors and what customers don't say because they don't know many times. And this also requires psychological skills.
Can I give a basic tip? Of course, the one Chiara gave, of course, is more advanced, is the proper way. A basic tip I can give, like this is very cheap, is like, for example, let's say you start your own pizza restaurant tomorrow, right? You don't know who your audience is. You can just launch like an Instagram and Facebook campaign targeting everyone in your area with your creative. Let's say the creative is showing, I don't know, how you make the pizza, right? And then because you're targeting everyone, the platform is showing it to everyone, and then is optimizing, the algorithm is optimizing based on the people that are actually willing to interact more. So after, I don't know, like a month or a couple of weeks, you can get a report and you can understand the demographics of the most of the people that engage with it, right? So you already have like a basic profile, like are they more like males, females, what the age range. This is what I did with my podcast as well. Like when I launched my podcast on YouTube, every month I look at the analytics and I already know who my audience is, right? And then you can also so knowing your audience then allows you to, of course, personalize then, the message and everything we said. This is a very basic one, but I think, if you don't have a big budget and you have, I don't know, like a couple of hundred of euro, I think you can launch a simple campaign and check the analytics.
And
We have one question.
Okay.
You can add if you want something.
Very quick tip. Find out what are the 6 persuasive techniques and try to test them, or those that you think are relevant for your business. Test them with using A/B testing and see which one performs better.
In your message, yeah.
In your message.
Great. Question is for Giovanni. Can you point out 3 interesting, important brand awareness activities for the future? What can we do for the brand
I mean, now
awareness?
everyone is doing podcasts as a brand awareness. Like every brand is doing like some type of podcast or like long form videos. I think for 2 reasons. First of all, because as I was saying at the beginning, is because you are more authentic, you're more transparent, And secondly, more like from a content production, because long form can become short form, right? So if you do 1 hour video, then you can translate it in, I don't know, 10 reels, and you can use these reels on your communication. So I think this is a great brand awareness, tool. And also like a lot of B2B businesses, they use it to do lead generation, right? Because then by having this conversation, you meet people, you listen to them as well. So it's also like a social listening tool, right? So this is one way. Another way is simply like running campaigns on social media, like a simple like brand awareness campaign on social media, allow you to first of all understand your audience, as we were saying, like analytics, but then you can also build your remarketing audience. Because let's say I launch a video, now I'm going a little bit more technical, but if I launch a video targeting everyone, for the famous pizza place we were talking about, and then I build 3 type of video, right? One talking about my pizza is cheap, so please come because you save money. So testing the principles that Chiara was mentioning, right? Then you have, let's say, then you have 6 different videos, one of each of them touching different principle, and then you know that people watching more than 50% of that video is people that are actually taking action and interest more in that principle. Then you already have your 6 principal audiences. So this is brand awareness plus data collection that allow you to then do remarketing and send these people different messaging, right? You can do it through newsletters and everything. And then another like brand awareness, I'm a big fan of events. I think in a world that is quickly going online, actually getting people together through conferences, events, just simply having a drink together and building emotion and connection, I think is key. So podcast, brand awareness on social media, and events. Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And there is a question for you, Chiara. If a business does not have the access to neuromarketing tools, how should and can they approach their customers, keeping in mind the service they provide to them rather than the product? We said something about
Yes,
that, but
yes, it's mainly about what we have said. So test different types of messages that leverage different techniques, psychological principles, but also persuasive principles. And by the feedback that you receive from your customers, you are understanding, first of all, which is the message that performs better, but secondly, you are adding an important information on your customer. So going back to that example, okay, if the message that focuses on innovation works best, then you are adding the information that your customers are much more interested in this. Probably they may have a high openness to experience, talking about in psychological terms. So focus on this and save this information to use it in the future. Of course, also surveys and voice of customers are very, very useful. So keep in mind that every touch point that you have, that your customers have with your brand, with your company, is an opportunity to learn something from them, whether you are asking or you are observing by analyzing.
Thank you so much. I think we covered so much ground today. These 2 hours passed pretty fast at the end. Do you have anything more to add? Something that you wanted to tell to our audience, but we didn't go through it?
Yeah, I mean, I think my only advice is keep studying, keep learning. AI technology is evolving very fast, so I think the only way to keep up and do what's best for you, because what's best for you is not best for others as well. Like also like just following the others is not the best practice. I think best practice is study, understand what the others are doing, but then learn what's best for you and just test and learn. Yeah.
Well, my suggestion is keep in mind that in your company, there's much more potential than you think. So we tend to look outside for new talents. We always think that if we need this skill, we need to look outside in the job market. But many times we already have in our company these skills in people who are doing simply something different. So try to understand better what are the types of skills that you already have in your company and values them more, because this allows you to save money from one side and to engage more the people that you have working with you at the same time.
Thank you so much.